In a land where the desert meets the jungle, where legends grow as wild as the roots beneath the earth, there lived a cowboy named Cole, a man of grit, silence, and sorrow. When his mother fell deathly ill and all remedies failed, one hope remained. A mythical flower said to bloom deep inside the cursed jungle known as the Hollow. But the jungle remembers all who enter, and not all who enter return. This is the story of a son's love, of battles against monsters born from shadow and memory, of a fire carried not in weapons, but in the heart. This is the tale of the Hollow Flower. So let's get started. Listen to the story carefully, because every step, every breath will take you deeper into the Hollow. And once you enter, there's no turning back. The sun bled gold across the dry plains of Dust Whistle as the winds swept up coils of dirt and tumbleweed. The town was quiet this time of evening, save for the low moan of a distant harmonica and the click of boots on timber porches. Cole Maddox stood by the steps of his modest ranch, the brim of his weathered hat pulled low over his brow. His eyes, sharp, stormy, and sun-battered, stared out at nothing in particular. His hands, once steady with a revolver, now trembled slightly as he held the folded note from Dr. Finlay. "Your mother's condition has worsened. Her fever won't break. The usual medicines won't help anymore." Inside, on a rickety old bed near the fire, lay Martha Maddox, his mother, his strength, and the only family he had left in the world. Her face was pale, her breath shallow. The herbal teas, poultices, and prayers had done little. Cole had seen her fight cattle thieves and outdrink most cowhands, but now all that strength had melted into fragile bones beneath thin skin. He crumpled the note and tossed it into the fire. He couldn't let her die, not without trying everything. That night, he rode to the edge of town under the ghostly glow of a crescent moon. Beyond the graveyard sat a lone shack built from cracked stone and warped wood. Inside, candles flickered behind windows clouded with soot. The townsfolk called him mad. Some even called him cursed. But Elder Rahim had once been a great healer. He'd traveled the world, or so the stories said, and spoke of plants that could make a man walk again, or stop a heart in seconds. Cole dismounted and knocked. No answer. He knocked again, louder. Finally, the door creaked open. Elder Rahim's face appeared in the gap, deep lines, white beard like tangled roots, and eyes that had seen too many lifetimes. "I was wondering when you'd come," the old man rasped. Cole's throat tightened. "She's not gonna last long." Rahim stepped back and gestured for him to enter. The shack smelled of old books, burnt herbs, and something metallic. On a crooked shelf sat jars filled with powders, bones, and dried insects. Hanging from the ceiling were bundles of withered leaves and scrolls tied with twine. Rahim settled on a cushion and poured 2 cups of black tea that steamed like smoke. "There is something that may help," he said, "but it is not grown in any land man calls his own." Cole leaned forward. "Tell me where. I'll go." Rahim unrolled an ancient parchment on the table. It was a map, faded, torn at the edges, and marked with symbols in a language Cole didn't recognize. At the heart of the map was a jungle outlined in green ink. "Verdant Hollow," Rahim whispered. "Few return from it. Some say it's alive, thinking, breathing. It guards what it holds, and at its core blooms the emberleaf, a flower of fire-red petals and golden veins. It only grows in one place, and only under the light of the jungle's moon. Cole stared at the map. And it'll heal her? Rahim's gaze turned distant. They say its nectar can heal any illness, even those thought beyond saving. But it must be taken from the flower fresh, and it must be fed with blood. Blood, Cole frowned. The jungle does not give gifts freely. It tests the heart, and it demands a price. Cole rose to his feet. Then I'll pay it. The old man studied him. You'll need more than grit. You'll need patience and courage and luck. I've got one of those, Cole said, tipping his hat. Rahim handed him the map, now rolled tightly in leather string. And take this, too. He handed Cole a small totem, a carved wooden shape of a flower with an eye in the center. Show it to the tribes if you find them. It may earn you a chance to speak before they kill you. Reassuring, Cole muttered, pocketing the totem. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying the scent of dust and coming rain. Cole rode back to town, his mind already racing ahead of him, to dense trees, wild creatures, and a bloom that burned like firelight in the dark. The journey had begun. Cole rode for 2 days straight, following the twisted, dust-faded lines of the map Elder Rahim had given him. Towns became hills, hills turned into forests, and forests thickened into swampland. By the third sunrise, the trees were so dense they blocked out the morning light, and even the birds seemed to whisper instead of sing. He dismounted by a still, murky river and spread the map over a boulder. The parchment crackled as he smoothed it flat, tracing the hand-drawn symbols with calloused fingers. Near the center, where jungle vines were sketched with deliberate care, a red X was inked beside a scribbled glyph that looked like a flame crossed with a leaf. Emberleaf bloom. He whispered it under his breath like a prayer. His mind drifted back to Rahim's voice, low, steady, and full of weight. It is not a flower like any other. Emberleaf only blossoms when the jungle moon shines directly on the heart of Verdant Hollow. It happens once every lunar cycle. You will have 10 days. After that, the jungle hides it again, and no one sees it until the next cycle. If you miss your window, your mother misses her chance. Cole had never been for superstition, but Rahim had spoken with the gravity of truth, not excitement or drama, but that deadpan tone of someone who's seen it, lived it, and regrets it. There was more to the story. Cole had sensed it. The old man had paused just a moment too long when handing him the totem, as if remembering something he had lost. Still, Cole had no time to chase questions. Every breath his mother took was shorter than the last. He folded the map and turned back toward the river, only to freeze. There, etched in a moss-covered stone across the river, was the very same flame leaf symbol from the map. The jungle had begun. He led Shadow across the shallows, careful not to step on the slick stones or disturb the water too much. The jungle floor was uneven and damp. Every footstep met with a soft squelch of mud or the brittle snap of fallen branches. Vines hung from above like green nooses, and the air was thick with moisture, buzzing with insects. Then, without warning, the wind stopped. No birds, no rustling, just silence. Cole reached instinctively for his revolver. His boots sunk slightly into the ground as he stepped forward, pushing aside thick leaves with the barrel of his gun. Something was watching him. He could feel it. A rustle, then a flicker of movement in the trees. Cole spun, weapon raised, but there was nothing, just vines swaying gently. Then he saw it, a mark carved deep into a tree trunk. More of the same symbols from the map, but this time they weren't in Rahim's ink. They were scratched in deep, jagged gouges as if made by claws, not knives. He knelt for a closer look. Under the markings, half covered in moss, was the skull of an animal, jaw broken, eye sockets hollow. Not a good sign. Still, he pressed on.
Suddenly, his foot caught something hard beneath the brush. He pushed away the vines and uncovered the remnants of a leather satchel, torn, waterlogged, and moldy with age. Inside were fragments of maps, a broken compass, and a journal whose ink had long since bled into unreadable sneers. Someone else had come this way, and hadn't left. Cole clenched his jaw. This place wasn't just dangerous, it was cursed. That night he camped under a tree that curled upward like a claw. He built a small fire, low enough not to draw attention, and chewed slowly on salted jerky. The sounds of the jungle resumed, whispers, howls, distant screeches, and still he felt the eyes. He took out the totem. The carved wooden flower with its unblinking eye stared back at him. "What the hell do you know?" he muttered. Then, from the darkness, a voice. "Put that away." Cole shot to his feet, revolver raised. A shadow stepped into the flickering edge of the firelight, lean, tall, wrapped in fabric the color of moss and bark. A spear was slung across the figure's back, and the person's face was hidden beneath a hood of leaves and bone. "You're a long way from the desert, cowboy," the figure said in a low voice. Female, firm. "I keep my weapon trained. Step into the light, slow." The figure obeyed. Her face was marked with tribal paint, but her features were unmistakably human. Dark skin, sharp eyes, and a scar running from the corner of her lip to her jaw. "My name is Kira, and you're walking toward death." Cole lowered his revolver slightly. "And how would you know that?" She sat cross-legged near the fire, unbothered. "I've seen what happens to men who chase that flower." "Then you know why I'm here." "I know. I saw you at the river, and the totem you carry belonged to my father." Cole stared at her. "Rahim?" She nodded. "I didn't know he had a daughter." "He doesn't know I'm alive," she said simply. "And if you keep going alone, you won't be for long either." Cole looked at the jungle beyond the flickering trees. "You know the way?" She nodded again. "But I won't take you unless you promise something." "What?" "When the time comes, you give up the flower or you give up yourself, but not both." He didn't understand, not fully, but he felt the weight of her warning. "I'll do what I have to." Kira smiled faintly. "Then you'll need rest. The jungle's trials begin tomorrow." As Cole lay on the damp jungle floor, the totem clenched in one hand and his revolver close to the other, he dreamed of fire-colored petals and something monstrous standing between him and the bloom. The morning in Verdant Hollow came not with light, but with mist. Cole blinked through the pale fog, the jungle around him glowing faintly green under the filtered dawn. Every leaf glistened with dew, and every branch seemed alive. The thick, humid air clung to his skin, heavy with the scent of damp earth and blooming danger. Kira stood near the edge of the makeshift camp, spear in hand, motionless as a statue. Her eyes scanned the dense underbrush as if it whispered secrets only she could hear. "You sleep light for a cowboy," she said without turning. "I sleep like a cat with one eye open." She smiled slightly. "Only way to wake up alive." Cole packed his gear quickly. He didn't trust this place enough to linger. Even the ground seemed to shift beneath his boots, as though the jungle was subtly pushing him forward or warning him away. "Today, we cross into the hollow's first breath," Kira said as they set off. "This outer edge is merely the veil. Beyond that ridge," she pointed ahead to a wall of tangled trees and fog, "the hollow becomes aware of you." Aware. It learns you, feels your heart, finds your weakness. Cole gave a sideways glance. That sounds like superstition. Everything sounds like superstition until it bites you. They pushed through undergrowth so thick it blocked the light, moving past hanging vines, roots that curled like snakes, and flowers that twitched when touched. Cole noticed markings on the trees, lines, glyphs, and spirals. "What do those mean?" he asked. Kira paused, placing her hand gently on one. Warnings. The jungle darkened. The temperature dropped as they entered a gully where the trees leaned inward like closing jaws. The ground beneath their feet squelched with each step. Somewhere up ahead, a low hum vibrated through the air. Cole slowed. "Hear that?" Kira nodded, lowering her stance. First test. They emerged into a clearing, if it could be called that, a circular glade, no more than 10 paces wide, surrounded by towering trees. In the center sat a pool of black water, still and mirror-like. Around its edge bloomed tall flowers, their petals purple and pulsing faintly like hearts. The hum intensified. Cole felt pressure in his ears, his balance faltering. "What is this?" Kira whispered. "The siren pool. It sings to you, lures you in. Men have drowned reaching for beauty that isn't real." Even now, Cole could feel its call. The pool shimmered. For a heartbeat, he thought he saw his mother, young, healthy, smiling, standing on the far edge, beckoning to him. He took a step forward before Kira grabbed his wrist. "Look away," she hissed. "It reads your mind, shows you what you want most." Cole tore his eyes away, forcing himself to stare at the dirt, heart racing. The humming dulled, then faded. Kira exhaled. "You're stronger than most." Cole frowned. That wasn't strength. That was something else. She didn't answer. They skirted the edge of the pool, heads down, and pressed deeper into the hollow. Time grew strange. The sun was no longer visible. They moved through a realm of eternal twilight, where shadows moved independently of their sources, and insects glowed like dying stars. Then came the first true fight. It struck from the trees, a blur of claws and bone-white fur. Cole heard the growl a second too late. The beast landed behind him with a snarl, and the world exploded into chaos. The creature was the size of a grizzly, with 10 limbs, 6 for running, 2 for striking, and 2 held back like a mantis's blades. Its face was flat, eyeless, with a mouthful of jagged yellow fangs. Blue liquid foamed at its jaws. Cole fired instinctively, but the shot glanced off its bony hide. The monster shrieked, a sound that cut through the air like steel through silk, and lunged. Kira met it midair, driving her spear upward into its throat. It thrashed, clawing at her shoulder. Cole rushed in, drawing his knife and plunging it into the beast's side. It bucked, throwing him to the ground. The creature rolled over, twitching violently, and let out a final shriek before collapsing, its limbs curling inward like a dying spider. Blue liquid seeped from its mouth, sizzling as it touched the ground. Cole wiped blood from his cheek. "What the hell was that?" Kira winced, pressing a cloth to her bleeding shoulder. "A 10-maw stalker, one of the Hollow's guardians. They smell fear and sickness." Cole stared down at the beast, still catching his breath. "It came for me." "They always do. They're drawn to purpose, and yours burns like fire." They treated their wounds and moved on, leaving the corpse to be reclaimed by the jungle. Vultures with 3 eyes circled overhead, already sensing the feast. By dusk, they reached a massive fallen tree, hollowed by time. Its bark was carved with ancient symbols, swirls and eyes, some glowing faintly. Kira placed her hand on one and bowed her head. "This is where we rest." Cole slid down onto the soft moss, exhausted. As night fell, the jungle changed again. The plants began to glow with faint bioluminescence, purple, green, orange, casting eerie light over everything. Shapes moved in the trees, silent and curious. Cole sat staring into the dark. "You said the jungle reads your heart." "Yes," Kira replied from across the fire. "What's it reading in mine?" She looked at him, her face shadowed. "Pain, love, and a promise you're willing to die for." Cole said nothing. The totem sat heavy in his pocket. In the distance, far beyond the hills, something roared. Not like any beast he'd ever heard. A deep, ancient sound, more felt in the bones than heard with the ears. Kira glanced up, tense. That was not for us. Not yet. Cole gripped the map tighter. He had made it into the hollow, but it had only begun to open its teeth. By morning, the jungle had transformed again. Mist still clung to the ground like a shroud, but now the trees rose higher, thicker, and stranger. Their trunks were coiled like serpents, their bark veined with glowing lines of amber. The branches above wove into an almost perfect ceiling, and strange, ribbon-like leaves dangled silently from the canopy, never rustling, never swaying. It was too quiet. Cole noticed it first, how even their footsteps sounded muffled, like sound itself was being swallowed. Kira halted and held up a hand. She whispered, "Where beneath the whispering canopy?" Cole frowned. "Doesn't sound like much whispering." "That's the trap," she said. "The silence is the whisper. It waits for you to listen." Cole raised an eyebrow. "Meaning?" Kira didn't answer. Instead, she pulled a pouch from her hip and handed Cole a plug of bitter-smelling herbs. "Chew this. It dulls the jungle's voice." Cole hesitated, then bit down. The taste was vile, like burnt rubber and old bark, but he kept chewing as they moved deeper beneath the canopy. As the trees closed in, Cole began to feel something creeping at the edge of his awareness. Not a noise, not quite. More like suggestion. A thought not his own. "Turn back. You don't belong here." He shook his head, spitting the herb. "Did you hear that?" Kira didn't answer. She moved forward, faster now, and for the first time Cole noticed tension in her posture. Even her steps were more deliberate, like she was walking through sacred ground. The jungle began to whisper again. This time it wasn't a thought. It was a voice, and it sounded just like his mother. "Cole, baby, come home. You don't have to do this." He froze. The voice was gentle, tired, and full of love, so real it cracked him open. He looked around. Nothing, just mist and trees. But the voice came again. "Let me go, son. You've done enough." Cole felt his knees buckle slightly. His breath came shallow, and the fire in his chest flickered. "Stop it!" he muttered. The canopy shimmered above, and for a split second the leaves seemed to part. Through them, he saw Martha Maddox again, standing beneath a tree in a white dress, holding a flower glowing with golden veins. "Mom?" He stepped forward, and then Kira slammed her hand against his chest, shoving him back so hard he hit the ground. "Don't look up. Never look into the canopy." Cole gasped, the vision gone. The tree above now looked like any other, dark, dripping, ordinary. He wiped cold sweat from his brow. It was her. "It wasn't," Kira said, helping him up. "The canopy reads your mind, finds your deepest want, and shows it to you. That's why no one escapes. They follow dreams until they fall asleep forever." They moved faster now, ignoring the shadows that blinked at the edges of their vision. Hours passed. The deeper they went, the stronger the whispers became. Not just his mother now, but others, his father, old friends, his brother Sam long dead. Each voice tried to lure him off the path,
But Cole kept chewing the bitter herb, kept following Kira. Then, suddenly, they emerged into a hollow ringed by pale blue trees. In the center stood a totem pole carved with monstrous faces, snake eyes, bird beaks, sharp teeth. At its base lay dozens of bones, human and otherwise. "What is this?" Cole asked. Kira's voice was low. "Boundary marker. Beyond here, the hollow becomes hostile. This is where the jungle stops asking politely." Cole nodded, stepping carefully past the marker. That was when the wind returned. It came all at once, with a moaning whistle that howled through the branches above. Leaves fluttered, vines twisted in place, and the jungle seemed to breathe. The whispers vanished, the silence shattered. Then came the first shriek. It wasn't human. From the canopy dropped a mass of black limbs and tangled roots, a creature with the head of a wolf and the body of a spider, each of its 8 legs ending in barbed claws. It hit the ground with a crunch and charged. Cole drew his revolver, but the thing was too fast. Kira leapt in, her spear slicing across its flank, but the creature spun and slammed her aside with a shriek. Cole fired twice, the bullet sparking off its armored hide. The beast lunged, its jaws wide. He rolled aside, kicked up dirt, and plunged his knife into its underbelly as it passed overhead. The creature screeched, blue ichor spilling across the moss. It spun wildly, backing into a tree. Kira, now bloodied but on her feet, circled from the opposite side. Together, they closed in. With a final lurch, the beast pounced at Kira. Cole fired one last shot, aiming into the beast's open mouth. The bullet hit bone and brain. It collapsed mid-air, dead before it hit the ground. Kira panted, leaning on her spear. "You're lucky," she muttered. "That one was alone." Cole wiped blood from his jaw. "What was it?" "Canopy sentinel. They watch those who linger." He looked up again, this time not at illusions, but at the real branches. Dozens of pairs of yellow eyes stared back down at them from the dark. "We need to move," Kira said. They didn't stop until the trees thinned again and the jungle lightened to a soft golden hue. That night, Cole couldn't sleep. Even with the fire burning and Kira's watchful presence nearby, he kept seeing those eyes in the dark and hearing the words that weren't his. "You don't belong here. Turn back. She's already gone." But Cole clenched the totem in his palm and whispered through his gritted teeth, "She's not. Not yet." And so the hollow whispered, and Cole refused to listen.
The river didn't sound like water. It hissed. By the time Cole and Kira reached its edge, the jungle had grown humid and sweltering. Steam rose off the forest floor, curling into strange shapes before vanishing into the high canopy. The path had narrowed until there was no path at all, just roots, mud, and tangled vines thick enough to trip a man with every step. Then the jungle opened into a clearing, and the river lay before them. Wide, slow, and sickly green, its surface shimmered under an overcast sky. The water didn't ripple. It didn't move like any river Cole had ever seen. Instead, it pulsed, like it was breathing. "What is this?" he asked, one hand on his revolver, the other shading his eyes. Kira stepped cautiously to the edge, her face unreadable. "They call it the River of No Rest. The Guardians say it is not water. They say it's alive." Cole narrowed his eyes. "Alive how?" "It remembers. Everything that dies in the hollow flows through here. Their thoughts, their fears, their pain. The water carries it all." She pointed upriver. "We have to cross." Cole looked at the surface. "There a bridge?" Kira shook her head. "There was. Once. The jungle took it." He looked at her, waiting for the real plan. She pointed to a fallen tree, wide and mostly intact, stretching partway across the river. "We walk the rest." "You mean we balance over a log while a river full of memory water hisses at our heels?" "Yes." Cole stared at the tree, then at the river again. The hissing seemed to grow louder the longer he looked.
He turned to Kira. Ladies first. Without hesitation, she climbed the trunk and began walking, arms out for balance, spear slung over her back. Her steps were sure, measured. She didn't look down once. Cole took a breath and followed, boots tapping softly against the moss-slicked bark. Halfway across, the hissing changed. It turned into whispers. Voices rose from the water, murmured words like wind trapped in bottles. You failed her. You were never enough. Why did you leave me? Cole froze, breath catching in his throat. The voice was Martha's, his mother, but wrong, hollow, echoing. No, he shook his head. The water pulsed. Faces began to form just below the surface, distorted, eyeless, mouths moving in slow agony. He forced his legs to move. Step. Balance. Step. But the voices grew louder, more frantic. Now Sam was speaking, his younger brother, long dead from a drunken fall off a cliff. I called out, Cole. You didn't come. You didn't hear me. Cole stumbled. His left boot slipped, and for a terrifying second, his balance teetered over the river. Then a hand grabbed his wrist. Kira, already across and kneeling at the edge. With a strong pull, she yanked him to safety. They collapsed on the opposite bank, both breathing heavily. Cole turned and looked back at the river. It had gone still again, silent. Kira spit to the side. It feeds on guilt. That's why it hisses. It's always full. Cole sat upright, wiping his face. You didn't hear it? I heard something, but it wasn't mine. They rested under a cluster of thick banana leaf trees while Cole checked his canteen and inspected his boots. The encounter with the river had left him shaky, not from physical exhaustion, but from the mental weight of what he'd heard. I buried Sam myself, he said, held his hand till the sun went down, and I still see his face sometimes. Kira looked at him softer now. Guilt is like blood in this place. The hollow smells it. Then it must love me, he muttered. They moved on, trekking along the river's curve until it disappeared into a canyon choked with vines. The land sloped upward, and the air became cooler, almost sharp with the scent of pine and wet rock. As they climbed, Cole noticed something strange. Stone ruins hidden beneath the undergrowth, small pillars, half-buried statues, and moss-covered archways. Symbols matching those on the totem and map adorned the stone. This place had a name once, a people, a history, but the hollow doesn't let you remember unless it wants you to. They entered what remained of an old shrine, open to the sky, the roof long gone. At its center stood a basin filled with black sand and 5 tall stakes wrapped in brittle, time-worn cloth. Cole touched one. Sacrifice? Warnings. Suddenly the jungle groaned. Not wind, not thunder. A deep, rumbling growl echoed through the trees, too low for any ordinary predator, too long for any natural sound. Kira tensed. It's awake again. What is? Something old, something that sleeps when no one watches. The sky darkened and clouds churned above them, shadows lengthened. Cole gripped his revolver. From the far side of the shrine, the trees split apart as something massive lumbered into view. It wasn't a creature, not yet. More like the forest itself had risen and shaped itself into a beast, 10 limbs made of bark and muscle, a single glowing eye at its center, and a gaping mouth that dripped glowing blue liquid like the beast from earlier. But this one was bigger, smarter, older. Run, Kira whispered. They bolted from the shrine, ducking under vines and hurdling roots as the creature roared. Its limbs pounded the earth, shaking leaves from the canopy and sending birds screeching into the sky. Cole fired blindly over his shoulder, useless. The bullets hit bark and vanished. They reached a ridge and leapt down a short drop into a tangle of wet ferns. The creature didn't follow, snarling instead at the cliff edge before retreating into the mist. They lay panting, battered but alive. What was that?
Cole gasped. Kira's face was pale. A root-born sentinel. The hollow sends them to test your will. He looked at the retreating shadow. Did I pass? No, she said. You ran. Cole sat up, glaring. I'm not dying for pride. Good, she replied. You'll need that sense when the trials get worse. As night fell and the howls faded into distance, Cole stared at the stars barely visible through the canopy. He wasn't just facing beasts. The jungle was testing his heart. And it wasn't done yet. The hollow grew hungrier with each passing step. Cole felt it in his skin, like the jungle itself had turned against him. Leaves brushed his arms like fingertips. Roots rose up like traps. Even the birds no longer fled at their approach. They watched in eerie silence, perched like sentinels. By midday, the sky above was a faint gray glow through the canopy. The air had turned dense and breathless. Even Shadow, Cole's horse, was restless, ears flicking at sounds that didn't belong. We're getting close to the hollow's center, Kira said. It doesn't like strangers. Cole grunted, wiping sweat from his brow. That's mutual.
They stopped near a clearing where ancient trees stood in perfect symmetry. Their trunks twisted upward in corkscrew spirals, and their leaves shimmered faintly with a metallic sheen. Cole reached out to touch one. Don't, Kira snapped. He froze, hand inches from the bark. Why not? Those are siren woods. Their bark releases spores. Breathe it in, and you dream forever. Cole pulled his hand back slowly. This place is just one bad idea after another. He turned to step around the tree and felt a sharp sting on his ankle, like a bee, but deeper, sharper. He stumbled, reaching down, and found a thorn embedded in his boot, just above the sole. It was tiny, black, barbed. Something stung me. Kira rushed over, knelt, and carefully peeled back the leather. Her fingers trembled. That's a bone hook thorn. Bad? She nodded grimly. It's not poison, it's worse. It burns the nerves. The pain grows until you pass out, or bleed trying to stop it. Already Cole felt it spreading. Cold first, then burning heat crawling up his calf. His legs seized, muscles locking. He dropped to his knees. Kira pulled out a small vial of green sap and a hooked needle. I have 1 dose left. Hold still. What are you going to... She didn't let him finish. With practiced speed, she stabbed the needle just above the wound and injected the sap. Cole groaned, clenching his fists against the fire racing through his veins. Breathe, Kira said. Don't fight it. Let it burn through. The heat built, rising to his thigh, then vanished as suddenly as it came, leaving his leg numb but mobile. Cole exhaled slowly, sweat dripping from his brow. Remind me never to touch anything again. Smartest thing you've said all day, she replied, helping him to his feet. But the damage was done. He limped heavily now, relying on a staff Kira fashioned from a smooth branch. Every few steps the pain flared again, brief but blinding. They made camp early. Kira built the fire and crushed leaves into a paste to rub into his leg. Cole lay still, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the dancing flames. As darkness fell, something changed in the air. Cole sat up, listening. What is it? Kira asked, voice low. He pointed to the trees. They've gone quiet. Indeed, not a chirp, not a breath of wind. Then came a sound like cloth tearing, slow, deliberate. From the shadows, a figure emerged. It walked upright, but its limbs were too long, bending the wrong way. Its skin was bark-like, and its face? There was no face, just a mouth, stretched across its head like a screaming gash. It moved without sound, gliding toward the camp. Cole reached for his revolver. No, Kira whispered. Guns will only wake more. She stood, spear ready. The creature let out a hiss. Not from its mouth, but from its skin, like steam escaping. Kira stepped forward, keeping herself between it and Cole. "Stay behind me," she said. The creature lunged. Kira met it head-on, striking low with the butt of her spear, sweeping its legs. It collapsed in the twisted heat but didn't stay down. It rolled and sprang upright with unnatural speed. Cole, despite the pain, forced himself up, grabbing a burning branch from the fire. He swung it wide, flames licking through the air. The creature recoiled. It hissed louder. Kira drove her spear through its chest. With a shudder, the thing went still. Then it collapsed into ash, disintegrating like dried leaves caught in wind. The camp was silent again. Kira sat beside Cole, breathing hard. "What in hell was that?" he asked. "A hollow walker," she said. "They patrol the outer ring of the jungle's heart. They don't attack unless they sense weakness." Cole looked down at his leg. "So my limp brought it." "Yes," she said. "The hollow watches for cracks, then it presses." He looked into the fire, jaw tight. "If that's just the outer ring..." Kira nodded. "We haven't seen anything yet." They sat in silence for a while, the fire crackling gently, the jungle resuming its distant moans and clicks. Cole lay back, exhausted. The pain had dulled, but the memory of it still burned in his muscles. His first wound in the hollow, not from blade or beast, but from the land itself. A message, clear and cruel. You are not welcome. Fog rolled in thick the next morning, cold, wet, and clinging like cobwebs to every surface. Cole limped through it beside Kira, his staff digging into the mossy ground. The numbing salve she had applied during the night had dulled the pain, but it hadn't brought back his strength. The wound in his leg throbbed in time with his heartbeat, each step a quiet challenge. The jungle was almost invisible now, shrouded in gray. Trees appeared like ghosts only when you were nearly upon them. Sounds were distorted, closer or farther than they really were. The hollow had entered another of its moods. "This fog isn't natural," Cole muttered, peering into the mist. Kira walked ahead, slow and alert. "It never is. This is where most men turn back. And the others? They don't make it far enough to regret it." They came upon a stone path, old, half sunken into the earth, the kind that suggested, once, long ago, civilization had tried to tame this place. It had failed. Cole crouched, studying the stones. "These look worn." "Because someone, or something, still uses them," Kira replied. They followed the path cautiously. After a short while, the fog grew denser. The air turned cooler. Then they saw it. Tracks. Large ones. Not human. Cole knelt again, touching the soft mud beside the stone. The prints were deep, wide, and clawed. Whatever made them walked on two legs, but its stride was massive. "Any idea what this is?" Kira stared at the trail for a long moment. "No, and that worries me." They followed the tracks anyway, slowly, weapons ready, eyes sweeping side to side. Each step led them deeper into a part of the jungle that looked wrong. Trees leaned at odd angles, and vines dangled like nooses. Even the colors were off. Less green, more gray, like the jungle was sick here. Then the silence cracked. A shrill scream tore through the fog.
Not animal. Not human either. Cole froze. Tell me that was the wind. Kira didn't move. That wasn't the wind. They pressed on. The tracks veered sharply left, toward a narrow pass between two boulders. On the other side, the fog lightened slightly, and the jungle opened into a clearing. The trees surrounding it were torn and splintered, as if something huge had smashed through them. Feathers, fur, and shards of broken bone lay scattered across the clearing. Something had died here, and not long ago. Cole bent beside a massive claw mark carved into a fallen log. "Fresh," she murmured, "within a day." Cole stepped around a half-buried skull. Its eye sockets were elongated, and it had 2 rows of teeth. "That's not from any animal I've seen." "That's because it wasn't an animal," Kira said. "It was a cave beak." Cole gave her a questioning glance. "They nest underground, only come out during fog cycles, hunters of sound." He looked up at the broken trees, the scattered remains. Something killed it. Kira nodded. Something bigger. They didn't speak again for a while. As they moved beyond the clearing, the tracks deepened. Cole noticed gouges on the trees, like claws had scraped them at head height. And then, something stranger. Symbols. Carved into tree bark, not with claws, but with blades. And they matched the ones from the map. "Wait," Cole said, stepping closer. "These marks, someone's been here." Kira joined him. "Not just someone, a traveler, like you." He ran his fingers along one of the symbols. Fresh, not ancient like the ruins. New. There was a trail leading from the marks, a narrow path through the underbrush, partially hidden. They followed it. Within minutes, they reached what remained of a camp. Torn canvas, a rusted pan, a bedroll stained dark, and beside it, a journal half buried under leaves. Cole opened it carefully. The pages were damp but still legible. Inside were sketches of the hollow, of strange beasts, of flowers glowing with internal light. The final entry chilled him. "I saw it, the Emberleaf. It was real. But the Guardian was there, watching. I couldn't go forward. I turned back. But I'm not alone anymore. Something follows me. I haven't seen it, but I know it walks when I sleep." Cole closed the journal slowly. "We're not the only ones out here, and whatever was following this man, it's still out there." Kira stood over the ruined camp, gaze sharp. "Then we'll keep moving, quietly, before it follows us." They moved faster now, deeper into the fog, avoiding the main path. Cole's limp slowed him, but adrenaline pushed him forward. Then, they heard it again. Not a scream, not a roar, a breath. A slow, rattling breath coming from somewhere just behind them. Cole spun, weapon ready. Nothing. Kira whispered, "Don't stop. Don't turn again. But just walk. If you look at it, it sees you." Cole obeyed. They walked for what felt like hours. The breath followed them, never closer, never farther. Just there. By the time they reached the edge of the fog, Cole's back was slick with sweat. Then, silence. The breath vanished. They stepped into sunlight, faint but real. The fog behind them writhed like a living wall. Cole collapsed beside a rock, panting. What the hell was that? Kira sat beside him. Some things in the hollow don't hunt with claws or teeth. They hunt with memory and fear. Cole wiped his brow. And we're just getting started. Kira looked toward the deeper jungle where taller trees rose like towers and birds screamed from the sky. "Yes," she said. "Next comes the night." Night fell like a trap. It didn't come gently, didn't ease in with a sunset. One moment the jungle shimmered in green-gold twilight, and the next the world was black. Cole's fire cracked and spit defiance into the dark. Sparks swirled upward, swallowed quickly by the shadows above. Beyond the faint ring of light, the jungle pulsed with distant sounds. Clicks, growls, low moans, the shifting of something vast and many-legged. This was no ordinary night. This part of the hollow was called the Devil's Nest in the old tongue, Cole whispered. Crouched near the fire. Sounds cozy. It's where the jungle stops pretending to be alive and starts showing you what it is. The trees were close now, growing at angles so unnatural they seemed deliberately spiteful. Their bark was darker, glistening like wet obsidian. Shadows between them didn't behave, moving without cause, flickering when nothing passed. Kira sprinkled dried herbs around their campsite, forming a wide circle. Protection? Cole asked. Warning system. If anything crosses the line, it burns, and we'll know. He glanced upward. No stars, no moon, just shifting black, thick and absolute. He checked his revolver, spun the cylinder, and slid it back into the holster. Do they hunt at night? Kira nodded. Not all of them, but the ones that do. She didn't finish the sentence. They ate in silence, roots and dried meat, bitter berries Kira had foraged earlier. Every sound beyond the fire felt amplified, a branch snapping too loudly, a rustling that echoed too long. Then came the scream, high, piercing, and inhuman. Cole was on his feet instantly, revolver drawn. Kira stood slowly, spear in hand, eyes never blinking. That's a razor claw. Is that a warning? No, that's a hunt cry. The jungle answered with silence. Then, movement. From the left, from the right, all around. Cole's breath caught in his throat. It's circling. No, Kira whispered. They're circling. She pulled something from her pouch, an oil vial, and quickly splashed it over her spear. The weapon hissed softly, glowing faintly green. Fire won't kill them, but it makes them bleed. Then the first one leapt.
It was like a blur of muscle and fang, a creature built to tear and vanish. Cole barely got a shot off before it collided with the edge of the firelight. The burning herbs flared, and the beast shrieked, retreating with smoke rising from its hide. Another one came from behind. Kira spun, her spear slicing upward. It struck the razor claw across the jaw, splitting skin and spilling black, tar-like blood. Cole fired again, 3 shots in rapid succession. One razor claw fell, twitching. Another leapt through the smoke. Claws raked across Cole's shoulder, sending him spinning. He hit the dirt, gasping. The beast loomed above him. Then Kira tackled it from the side, driving her blade deep into its ribs. It shrieked and bolted into the trees. Cole groaned and sat up. Blood soaked through his shirt, but the cut wasn't deep. More, Kira said, eyes scanning the dark. They're testing us. Testing? Cole coughed. Razor claws don't swarm. They wait. They watch. Then they choose. The jungle groaned. A shape dropped from above. This one was bigger, twice the size of the others, with glowing red eyes and armored forelimbs like scythes. Its body rippled with power. The Alpha. It roared, low, guttural, and full of hate. Kira stepped forward. Stay behind me. Cole rose beside her, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. Not this time. The Alpha charged. Kira leapt to meet it, spear slashing across its chest. Cole fired once, twice, aiming for the eyes. The bullet sparked off the hide. It knocked Kira aside and lunged at Cole. He ducked, rolled, and shoved his burning staff into the creature's mouth. The razor claw shrieked, biting down, but fire flared, burning the inside of its throat. Cole used the moment to reload. Kira scrambled back to her feet, grabbing a pouch from her side. Yell, cover me! He fired again, this time at the beast's legs, slowing it. Kira hurled the pouch. It exploded midair in a burst of green flame. The Alpha shrieked, now ablaze, thrashing wildly. It staggered, limbs failing. Then it collapsed, smoking and still. The rest of the jungle went quiet. The remaining razor claws vanished into the trees. It was over. Cole sat hard on a log, breathing heavy, soaked in sweat and blood. That's 2 fights too many for one night. Kira nodded, crouching beside the alpha's smoldering corpse. You held your ground. I smiled wryly. Only because I couldn't run. She looked at me for a long moment. You're bleeding. Better than the alternative. She wrapped my shoulder with steady hands, her touch gentle despite the weight of exhaustion. As dawn approached, the shadows lifted. The jungle seemed to loosen its grip just a little. Cole stared into the ashes of their fire, thinking of the alpha's roar, of its claws flashing in the dark. You said this place tests your heart? Yes. What did this one test? Kira stood and looked toward the east, where the hollow's tallest trees reached like fingers into a graying sky. Whether you fear the dark, or what waits inside it. Dawn in the hollow didn't arrive with warmth, it arrived with sound. A low hum rippled through the jungle, as if the trees themselves were waking up. Leaves rustled without wind, vines pulsed, moving imperceptibly. The sun barely broke through the canopy, and yet the air shimmered like heat rising off stone. Cole felt it in his bones. The hollow was changing again. Kira stood at the edge of their clearing, staring into the dense thickets ahead. We're close now. To the Emberleaf, Cole asked, adjusting the bandage on his shoulder. She nodded, but first we passed the Tree of Murmurs. That name didn't sit well. Is that supposed to be as welcoming as it sounds? Kira's expression remained unreadable. It's not a test of strength. It's a test of memory and regret. They packed quickly and moved east. The forest narrowed into a corridor of stone, 2 long cliffs draped in moss, like ancient cathedral walls, leading to a hill of garnered roots. The deeper they went, the more the jungle changed. Trees grew taller, but thinner. Their branches bent inward as though bowing to something greater. Then the murmurs began. At first they sounded like the rustle of leaves, then whispers, then names. Cole's breath caught in his chest. That voice said, Sam. Kira didn't respond. I heard it again, my brother's voice, laughter, then a scream, the memory of the fall, the silence that followed. I kept walking. The path led them to a clearing with one enormous tree at its center, twisted, black-barked and leafless, its limbs sprawling like the arms of a dying god. It was wider than any structure Cole had seen, its base rooted in cracked stone and skulls. The Tree of Murmurs, Kira said softly. Even her voice trembled. It whispered as it breathed, thousands of voices at once, layered over one another in every tongue. Words of comfort, of despair, of longing. Cole stepped forward. Wait, Kira said. Once you touch it, it speaks only to you, and you must finish what it shows you. I turned. What if I don't? Then it never lets you leave. I faced the tree again. My fingers brushed the bark. The world disappeared. I stood on dry desert ground. A house behind me. Our old ranch. My mother on the porch, sitting in her rocking chair, a blanket over her legs. Ma? She looked up and smiled. You came back. The wind carried the scent of dust and wheat. The sky was endless. I found the flower, I said, holding something in my hands, golden, glowing, warm. She shook her head slowly. Too late. The flower crumbled into ash.
No, he said, stepping forward. I'm not too late. I'm not... The world turned dark. He stood now in a field of graves. His name was on every headstone. Sam's voice whispered behind him. You always leave. You always survive. He turned. The jungle was there. The tree loomed behind him, its branches moving like snakes. Why did you come here? The voices asked. To save her, or to save yourself? The shadows grew. He saw 1,000 versions of himself, young, old, broken, lost. All failing, all falling, all turning back too late. Then the whisper changed. It was Martha's voice again, but this time calm, tired, kind. You always carry guilt like it's armor, Cole, but it's just a wound you never treat. He fell to his knees. The bark beneath him shimmered, and then light. He gasped as he was thrown back, landing on the grass outside the tree's roots. The jungle was silent. Kira rushed to him. "You were inside for nearly an hour." He blinked. Felt like years. Did it speak? He nodded slowly. More than that, it remembered me. Kira helped him up. Most turned back after the tree, but you're still here. Cole looked at the tree. Its branches were still, its voices gone. "I don't want to be remembered by what I didn't do," he said. They continued on, leaving the tree of murmurs behind. The jungle grew brighter as they pressed forward, less threatening, more reverent, as if the hollow had paused to watch. That night, they camped by a small spring. Clear water, soft grass, no growls in the distance. Cole lay on his back, staring at the stars now faintly visible through the thinning canopy. "What did it show you?" Kira asked. He hesitated. "My regrets, my failures, all of them." "Did they break you?" "No," he said. "But they reminded me why I can't stop." She nodded, tossing him a leaf-wrapped bundle of dried fruit. "You passed." He smiled, chewing thoughtfully. "One more step to that flower." "Maybe," said Kira, "but the hollow doesn't give anything away. Not without a price." In the dark, something howled, not in anger, but in grief. The jungle was listening. The morning air held no warmth. It was crisp, sharp enough to sting the lungs, and the sky above the hollow had dimmed into a dull brass hue, casting the jungle in strange, dreamlike light. Birds no longer called. Insects no longer chirped. Even the wind held its breath. Cole tightened the straps on his satchel and looked over at Kira. She had already packed and stood at the edge of the campsite, facing the rising ridgeline to the north. "That's where it is," she said. "The emberleaf blooms beyond that rise, but so does its guardian." Cole nodded at Long. "I figured something was protecting it. Too much trouble otherwise." She turned to him, eyes grim. "This guardian is not a beast. It doesn't bleed, doesn't sleep. It was placed here when the jungle was still young." He met her gaze. "What is it?" Kira looked up toward the stone cliffs beyond the treetops, a golem of stone and ash. The old tribes called it Nakaroon, forged from obsidian and ember. It guards the flower because the jungle made it so. They set off together, following a barely visible trail marked by silver moss and weathered stones. As they climbed, the forest changed again. No longer wild, but ancient. Trees stood taller and farther apart, their trunks etched with runes so old even Kira couldn't read them. The air felt charged, every breath like inhaling a storm. Soon the trail ended at a wide plateau, and there it stood. The guardian, Nakaroon. It was motionless at first, an enormous humanoid figure seated upon a broken throne of black rock. Its body was carved from obsidian and basalt, limbs like jagged mountains, veins glowing faintly with a deep orange light. Its eyes were closed, its head bowed. Behind it bloomed a small patch of golden red flowers, the emberleaf, their petals pulsing with light as if lit from within. Cole stepped forward. The guardian opened its eyes. Twin furnaces roared to life within its head, molten and merciless. With a sound like mountains grinding together, it stood, and the earth trembled. Kira drew her spear. If we're to get the flower, it has to fall. Cole pulled his revolver and whispered, "Then let's make it fall hard." The guardian took its first step, and the ground cracked under its weight. Cole fired.
The bullet ricocheted off its shoulder, sparking against the obsidian armor. "Of course," he muttered. "Why would bullets work?" Nakaroon raised its arm and slammed it into the earth. A wave of ash erupted, knocking them both back. Kira rolled and came up running, spear aimed at its knee. She struck, and the obsidian cracked slightly. The golem turned, backhanding her through the air. She hit the ground hard, but groaned, alive. Cole ran to the left, circling. He spotted a weak point, glowing lines of lava that pulsed along its ribs. He holstered his gun and grabbed his knife. "Hey, Rockface!" he shouted. The golem turned. Cole hurled the knife straight into one of the glowing cracks. It sunk in. The golem roared, a sound like an avalanche, and stumbled slightly. Kira was back on her feet. "Target the light!" she shouted. Cole rushed forward, dodging a sweeping arm that shattered trees like twigs. He leapt onto the golem's lower leg, climbing the craggy rock as it moved. His fingers burned from the heat, but he climbed higher, toward the glowing chest. The golem thrashed, trying to shake him off. Kira used the moment to stab deep into one of its heels. Another crack, more glow. The golem staggered. Cole reached its shoulder, drawing his last flare from his belt. He jammed it into a vent near its collarbone and struck it. Flame burst. The guardian screamed. The obsidian cracked, lines of molten light running like rivers through its chest. Cole leapt just as it collapsed, its body shattering into black fragments that smoked and hissed against the ground. He rolled, coughed, and looked up. The flowers still bloomed. He limped to the patch, half a dozen ember leaves, glowing like the heart of a fire, their petals soft as silk. Kira joined him, bruised but smiling faintly. "You did it!" "No," Cole said, plucking the largest bloom. "We did it." He held the flower gently. Even in his hands he felt its power, warm, steady, pulsing like a heartbeat. He thought of his mother, her fading breath, the way she smiled even through the pain. "She's going to live," he whispered. Kira nodded. "If you survive the way back." He looked over the shattered remnants of the guardian, and beyond that, miles of hollow. "I'll survive," Cole said, tucking the ember leaf carefully into a pouch lined with soft cloth. "I didn't come all this way to fail now." The wind picked up, and for the first time, it didn't carry warning or fear. It carried something else. Permission. The forest was letting them go. The hollow never lets you leave the way you came. Cole knew that the moment they stepped away from the Guardian's broken throne. The trail they had followed, the silver moss, the rune-marked stones, had vanished. Even the trees had shifted. Where there had once been sun-bleached plateau, now rose a corridor of twisted vines and unfamiliar shadows. Kira narrowed her eyes. "It's reconfiguring." Cole limped beside her, the ember leaf safe in its pouch, every step echoing with determination. "You said the hollow watches. Is this its way of punishing us?" "No," she replied. "This is its nature. It shifts to test the return journey. The first half breaks your body. The second breaks your belief." "Great," Cole muttered. "I was hoping for something worse than giant lava golems and memory trees." They moved forward, step by cautious step. Cole's muscles ached, His wounds pulsed, but the flower's faint warmth against his chest reminded him what waited beyond the jungle. His mother, dying, time running out. The forest grew colder again, not from wind, but from absence, an eerie stillness that clawed at the mind. Hours passed, or maybe days. The sun, if it still existed, had no power here. Eventually, they reached a ridge where the ground leveled into a wide basin, and that's when they saw the Mirror Hollow. A forest exactly like the one they had passed through. Same trees, same rocks, but everything reversed. Trees curled to the right instead of the left. Stones bore runes in reverse order. Even the shadows fell the wrong way. Cole stepped forward. Illusion? No, Kira whispered. It's real. It copies the parts of your path that nearly broke you, then offers you a different ending. They pressed on. Soon they found the burnt clearing where they'd fought the razor claws, but now the corpses were gone, and fresh claw marks lined the trees.
They're still watching us, Cole muttered, hand on his revolver. No, Kira said. This is what could have happened if we'd failed. The howls started again, but they weren't hunting howls. They were mourning. The jungle was grieving its guardian, and the cost of that grief, everything else wanted balance. A thick fog rolled in, even heavier than the one they'd faced before. Cole's breath fogged in front of his face despite the humid air. Then a shape moved in the mist. It looked like Kira. Same braid, same spear, same steady eyes. But she stood on the opposite path, motionless. Cole blinked. The real Kira turned to look at the figure. Ignore it. It's not me. The doppelganger lifted its spear and smiled. Cole shivered. It wasn't a kind smile. She'll try to lead you astray, Kira said. Split us, trick you. The doppelganger took a step forward. Then another. It raised its arm and pointed. Cole's ears filled with a voice, his own, echoing inside his skull. She's slowing you down. You don't need her. He closed his eyes. You're not real. She'll betray you. The jungle showed her how. He opened his eyes, drew his revolver, and fired. The image vanished in a burst of mist. Silence returned. Kira looked at him. Most people don't shoot their own thoughts. I've had worse ones, Cole said. They walked faster now. The jungle tried again. This time, Sam's voice. Then his mother's. Then the soft pleading of people he didn't even know, memories not his own, planted like weeds. But Cole was past it now. He had the Emberleaf. No illusion could take that from him. By nightfall, they reached a strange circle of trees, 20 in total, each twisted into the shape of a kneeling figure, their trunks bent like broken statues. And at the center, a stone well. Kira stopped. This is the last barrier. Cole eyed the well. What's in it? Not what, who. Before he could ask, the earth shook. From the well rose a figure cloaked in leaves and smoke. It had no face, only a smooth, bark-covered surface that shifted like water. It was human-sized, yet it radiated something ancient, final. Kira bowed her head. The Warden of Return. The warden stepped forward. It raised a hand. Cole felt his heart stutter, just once, as if time paused inside his chest. The warden didn't speak with words. Its voice went straight to the mind. You carry the jungle's flame. Cole nodded. I need to leave with it. And what have you given in return? Cole hesitated. What do you mean? Nothing leaves the hollow without a price. Life for life, breath for breath. The warden turned its faceless head toward Kira. She is not bound here.
but she knows the cost. Cole turned to her. What's it talking about? Kira didn't look away. I wasn't going to tell you, but I can't leave with you. What? I was born in the hollow, Cole. My ancestors made a pact with the jungle to protect the Emberleaf. I've guided others, but no one's ever returned with the flower. He stared at her, disbelief turning to anger. You mean this was a one-way trip for you? She nodded. And I chose it. I chose to help someone who wouldn't waste it. Cole stepped forward. No, there's got to be another way. The warden raised both hands. The trees around them pulsed with light, gold, red, and green. The hollow waited. Kira took his hand. You have what you came for. Go. He looked down at her hand, then at the flower nestled in his pouch. The emberleaf glowed against his chest. I won't forget, he said. I know, she replied with a smile. The warden touched his forehead. The world dissolved into light. The hollow let him go, in silence.
No flash, no scream, no curtain of vines pulling back. One heartbeat, he was staring at the warden's faceless shape, Kira's hand in his, and in the next, he stood at the edge of the jungle, knees in the mud, morning sunlight pouring through open sky. Cole gasped. Birdsong, real birds, the scent of soil untainted by magic. A breeze touched his skin, cool, honest wind. He was out. Shadow, his horse, still waited where he'd tied her. Weeks had passed, but she looked up with calm recognition, nickered once and stamped her hoof. Cole reached out, touched her neck. Good girl. His satchel still hung over his shoulder. He opened it with trembling hands, and there, nestled in soft cloth, the emberleaf glowed. Alive, unwilted. He exhaled. One part of the journey was over, but the ache inside him said another had just begun. He mounted Shadow, urged her westward, toward home. The journey back was swift, driven by urgency, not fear. The jungle didn't try to reclaim him. If anything, the land seemed to clear a path before him, as if the hollow had accepted its toll. But not without cost. Kira's absence was louder than words. Every night by the fire, her silence sat beside him. Every question he'd meant to ask her echoed unanswered. She had chosen the hollow, to keep the flower alive. And now that choice belonged to Cole. He reached the ranch by the fourth morning. Dust blew over the fields. Cattle wandered slowly near the fence line. And on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, his mother sat, paler, thinner, but alive. Mama! He dismounted and rushed forward. Her eyes opened, soft and gray and tired. Cole, she whispered, smile curling like dawn. You made it. I told you I would, he said, crouching beside her. He pulled the emberleaf from his pouch. She stared at it, the glow reflected in her fading eyes. It's beautiful. I need to brew it, just like the healer said. He moved inside, ground the petals into fine powder, added it to boiling water, and mixed it with clover honey and warm milk. A slow, golden brew formed, light pulsing faintly within the cup. He returned to the porch, handed her the drink. Her fingers trembled. She sipped, and something changed. Her color deepened. Her shoulders straightened. Breath came easier. Cole sat back, stunned. Mama? She looked up. I feel warm. And then she laughed, a small, weak laugh, but real. It was working. He sat beside her as the sun rose, her hand in his. He'd done it. He'd saved her. That night, Cole sat alone on the porch after she fell asleep. Stars lit the sky above like holes punched in the fabric of heaven. But the night was too quiet. His thoughts wandered back into the hollow, back to the Tree of Murmurs, to the Razor Claws, to Knockaroon the Guardian, and Kira. Her face haunted him, not with sorrow, but with gravity. She had become part of the hollow. Maybe she always had been. "Guess you were the real guardian," he whispered. From his satchel, he pulled the last petal of the emberleaf. He hadn't used all of it. He didn't know why he'd saved this one piece, a sliver of glowing red-gold memory. Maybe because some part of him hoped. The wind shifted. He thought he heard a whisper. Not the jungle, not a voice, but a presence. He smiled faintly. Maybe the hollow didn't just take. Maybe sometimes it left a part of itself behind. Or someone. In the days that followed, Martha improved. Her strength returned. Her voice rose again with laughter and scolding, and neighbors called it a miracle. But Cole didn't share the tale. How could he? Who would believe the jungle was alive, or that it tested you, changed you, demanded memory as much as blood? Who would believe in the Tree of Murmurs, or a girl born from shadow, loyal to a cause older than maps? No. He carried the hollow in silence, but it never left him. In his dreams, he still walked the root-covered paths, still heard the forest breathe, still saw Kira standing at the edge of the dark, waiting, not as a prisoner, but as part of something ancient and eternal. The world beyond the hollow was healing. Spring had begun to stir across the land. Trees wore their fresh green coats, and the rivers, once low from drought, now ran wild with snowmelt. Life was returning, and with it came something harder to name. Peace? No, not yet. Cole rode across the plains not because he had to, but because he couldn't stop. Something inside him was restless, like a part of the hollow had lodged beneath his skin, whispering for motion, for purpose, for something more than silence and survival. Martha, now well and laughing again, had told him he didn't need to roam anymore. "You've done enough, son. You gave up part of yourself to bring me back. That's more than any boy should have to give." But Cole wasn't just a boy anymore. The hollow had burned that part away. He needed to ride.
They stopped near a clearing where ancient trees stood in perfect symmetry. Their trunks twisted upward in corkscrew spirals, and their leaves shimmered faintly with a metallic sheen. Cole reached out to touch one. "Don't!" Kira snapped. He froze, hand inches from the bark. "Why not? Those are siren woods. Their bark releases spores. Breathe it in, and you dream forever." Cole pulled his hand back slowly. This place is just one bad idea after another. He turned to step around the tree and felt a sharp sting on his ankle, like a bee, but deeper, sharper. He stumbled, reaching down, and found a thorn embedded in his boot, just above the sole. It was tiny, black, barbed. "Something stung me." Kira rushed over, knelt, and carefully peeled back the leather. Her fingers trembled. "That's a bone hook thorn." "Bad?" She nodded grimly. "It's not poison, it's worse. It burns the nerves. The pain grows until you pass out, or bleed trying to stop it." Already Cole felt it spreading. Cold first, then burning heat crawling up his calf.
His legs seized, muscles locking. He dropped to his knees. Kira pulled out a small vial of green sap and a hooked needle. "I have 1 dose left. Hold still." "What are you going to—" She didn't let him finish. With practiced speed, she stabbed the needle just above the wound and injected the sap. Cole groaned, clenching his fists against the fire racing through his veins. "Breathe," Kira said. "Don't fight it. Let it burn through." The heat built, rising to his thigh, then vanished as suddenly as it came, leaving his leg numb but mobile. Cole exhaled slowly, sweat dripping from his brow. "Remind me never to touch anything again." "Smartest thing you've said all day," she replied, helping him to his feet. But the damage was done. He limped heavily now, relying on a staff Kira fashioned from a smooth branch. Every few steps the pain flared again, brief but blinding. They made camp early. Kira built the fire and crushed leaves into a paste to rub into his leg. Cole lay still, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the dancing flames. As darkness fell, something changed in the air. Cole sat up, listening. "What is it?" Kira asked, voice low. He pointed to the trees. "They've gone quiet." Indeed, not a chirp, not a breath of wind. Then came a sound like cloth tearing, slow, deliberate. From the shadows, a figure emerged. It walked upright, but its limbs were too long, bending the wrong way. Its skin was bark-like, and its face? There was no face, just a mouth, stretched across its head like a screaming gash. It moved without sound, gliding toward the camp. Cole reached for his revolver. "No," Kira whispered. "Guns will only wake more." She stood, spear ready. The creature let out a hiss, not from its mouth but from its skin like steam escaping. Kira stepped forward, keeping herself between it and Cole. "Stay behind me," she said. The creature lunged. Kira met it head-on, striking low with the butt of her spear, sweeping its legs. It collapsed in the twisted heat but didn't stay down. It rolled and sprang upright with unnatural speed. Cole, despite the pain, forced himself up, grabbing a burning branch from the fire. He swung it wide, flames licking through the air. The creature recoiled. It hissed louder. Kira drove her spear through its chest. With a shudder, the thing went still. Then it collapsed into ash, disintegrating like dried leaves caught in wind. The camp was silent again. Kira sat beside Cole, breathing hard. "What in hell was that?" he asked. "A hollow walker," she said. "They patrol the outer ring of the jungle's heart. They don't attack unless they sense weakness." Cole looked down at his leg. "So my limp brought it." "Yes," she said. "The hollow watches for cracks, then it presses." He looked into the fire, jaw tight. "If that's just the outer ring—" Kira nodded. "We haven't seen anything yet." They sat in silence for a while, the fire crackling gently, the jungle resuming its distant moans and clicks. Cole lay back, exhausted. The pain had dulled, but the memory of it still burned in his muscles. His first wound in the hollow, not from blade or beast, but from the land itself. A message, clear and cruel. You are not welcome. Fog rolled in thick the next morning, cold, wet, and clinging like cobwebs to every surface. Cole limped through it beside Kira, his staff digging into the mossy ground. The numbing salve she had applied during the night had dulled the pain, but it hadn't brought back his strength. The wound in his leg throbbed in time with his heartbeat, each step a quiet challenge. The jungle was almost invisible now, shrouded in gray. Trees appeared like ghosts only when you were nearly upon them. Sounds were distorted, closer or farther than they really were. The hollow had entered another of its moods. "This fog isn't natural," Cole muttered, peering into the mist. Kira walked ahead, slow and alert.
It never is. This is where most men turn back. And the others? They don't make it far enough to regret it. They came upon a stone path, old, half sunken into the earth, the kind that suggested, once, long ago, civilization had tried to tame this place. It had failed. Cole crouched, studying the stones. These look worn. Because someone or something still uses them, Kira replied. They followed the path cautiously. After a short while, the fog grew denser. The air turned cooler. Then they saw it. Tracks. Large ones. Not human. Cole knelt again, touching the soft mud beside the stone. The prints were deep, wide, and clawed. Whatever made them walked on two legs, but its stride was massive. Any idea what this is? Kira stared at the trail for a long moment. No, and that worries me. They followed the tracks anyway, slowly, weapons ready, eyes sweeping side to side. Each step led them deeper into a part of the jungle that looked wrong. Trees leaned at odd angles, and vines dangled like nooses. Even the colors were off. Less green, more gray, like the jungle was sick here. Then the silence cracked. A shrill scream tore through the fog.
Cole shook his head. Not anymore. The old man paused, then nodded slowly. You carry yourself like a man who answers to something. Cole tied the sack of goods to his saddle and was about to leave when he saw a flyer nailed to the post beside the store. Wanted. Cassian Red Fang Breck. Robbery, murder, kidnapping. $600 dead or alive. Cole stared at the sketch. The man's eyes were hollow, teeth sharp, smile wide like a predator. He remembered the hollow and how some monsters didn't have claws but hunger. He tore the flyer from the post. A teenager near the well noticed. You after Red Fang? Cole nodded. Don't, the boy warned. He's not natural. Got a whole gang up in Vulture's Pass. They don't die easy. Cole folded the paper. Neither do I. By sunset, Cole had found the trail. Vulture's Pass was 2 days north. Narrow ravines, old mines, perfect for outlaws. He traveled light, camped high in the rocks, and ate in silence. The emberleaf petal at his chest pulsed softly. It didn't burn. It reminded. Each time the wind howled, he heard Kira's voice. Some things don't bleed, but they can still be stopped. 2 nights later, he reached the ridge above Vulture's Pass. From his vantage point, he saw torches flickering in the old mining ruins. 7 men, 1 central fire, 3 rifles, a half-asleep lookout on a boulder. He waited until moonrise. Then he moved. He took out the lookout without a sound, just a blow to the temple and a firm grip until the man stopped struggling. Then he slid into the camp like a shadow. One by one the outlaws fell, a knife across a throat, a revolver crack in the dark. Silence returned with each breath stolen. By dawn, only one remained. Red Fang. He stepped out of the mine like he knew death waited for him. Long red coat, a necklace of teeth, and a laugh like broken glass. Well, he said, the hollow sends another. Cole stiffened. What did you say? Red Fang grinned wide. You've got it on you. That glow, that scent of sap and ash, I've been there too, cowboy. He drew his weapon, a jagged blade that shimmered unnaturally. I came back with something too. Cole fired once. Red Fang moved faster than a man should. The bullet struck his shoulder, but he didn't fall. You'll have to do better. They clashed between the stones, steel against will. Red Fang struck fast and low, his blade leaving trails of smoke. Cole ducked, rolled, and fired again, once in the leg, once in the chest. Red Fang laughed through the pain. I drank from the black root. It made me more. Cole tackled him into the dirt, slammed a stone into his jaw, then drove his knife into the man's side, right into a vein glowing faintly red. Red Fang screamed. The hollow inside him shrieked and died. Cole stood over the body, chest heaving. Another monster silenced, but this one had spoken the truth. Others had passed through the hollow, and some had brought back something cursed. Cole wiped the blade clean. Then he whispered a promise into the wind. I'll stop them all. He returned to Dustfell, dropped Red Fang's body across the sheriff's desk, collected the reward without a word, and rode out before noon. The townsfolk watched him go. A girl near the well whispered, "Who was he?" Her grandfather answered softly, "Not law, not outlaw." "Then what?" The man tipped his hat. "Just a rider with fire in his heart, the kind who walks through hell and brings something back." Cole rode on, the emberleaf petal still warm at his chest. He had no badge, no map, no master, just a code. One he had written in blood and memory. The Stranger's Code. Three days of riding brought Cole to the ghost trail. No signs, no markers, just a narrow path that hadn't seen hooves or boots in years. Yet the earth seemed to remember, and shadow followed its whisper without hesitation, weaving through dead trees and wind-polished rocks. At the edge of a forgotten mesa stood the remains of a town. Not ruined, just gone. Cole dismounted and approached slowly. No smoke, no voices, no animals, just silence. Wooden buildings stood upright, intact, as if waiting for a town that had gone out for a walk and never returned. Doors swung gently in the breeze. A single lantern flickered above the saloon, casting light where no one watched. Cole stepped onto the main road. Dust clung to his boots. Then he saw it. Footprints in the dirt. Small ones. Bare. Children. He followed them toward the schoolhouse, its door cracked open. Inside, tiny desks were still aligned. Chalk lay broken beside a half-finished lesson on the board. A cup of tea sat untouched on the teacher's desk, the liquid long dried to a film. Cole stepped further in, heart tightening. At the back of the room sat a child, or what used to be one. She didn't move. Her skin was pale, eyes black as coal. Her hair floated slightly, as if underwater. She wore no shoes. "Hello?" Cole said gently. The girl turned her head, not blinking. "You're not supposed to be here. The town is sleeping." He approached slowly. "What happened here?" "They listened too long, to the wind." He knelt. "What did the wind say?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "It sang to us, soft and sweet. It told us to sleep." He felt a chill behind him, turned. Figures now stood in the doorway. Men, women, children, faces pale, eyes empty, all barefoot. Their mouths didn't move, but a faint humming filled the air. The same melody, repeating, soft and sweet. He staggered back, ears ringing.
The girl stood, her voice now layered, hundreds of voices behind one child's mouth. You carry the ember, the jungle's echo. You've brought the fire too close. Cole pulled out the petal around his neck. It pulsed brightly. The townspeople hissed, backing away. They're bound, not dead, bound by something. He backed out of the schoolhouse. The humming followed. At the edge of town stood a well. Cole ran to it and peered down. Darkness, but not empty. Something stirred within. He lit a match and dropped it in. The flame vanished halfway down. Then something exhaled. A rush of cold air, wet and foul, poured out. From the depths rose a song, not words, but emotion, longing, hunger, possession. He recognized it, the same tune the Tree of Murmurs had whispered in his mind. Another branch of the hollow, he said aloud. This wasn't just a haunted town, it was infected. A fragment of the jungle had extended its reach, bending space, feeding on memory. Cole grabbed the pouch containing the last dried emberleaf flake, the smallest sliver he'd saved in case of infection or poison. He tore the pouch open, let the dust spill into his hand, then cast it into the well. The moment it touched the air, the wind screamed. The town shuddered. Windows shattered. The lantern above the saloon burst in flame. Figures screamed, not with pain, but with release, and vanished. One by one, the people dissolved into dust. The humming stopped. Only the girl remained.
She looked up at him, now normal, real tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said. Then she was gone. Silence. Real silence. Cole stood alone. He stared into the well again. Nothing stirred. The emberleaf had sealed whatever breach had reached through. He mounted Shadow and rode from the town that no longer whispered. As he crested the hill, he looked back one final time. The town was gone. Vanished completely. No buildings, no trail, not even dust. Just open prairie. Another scar on the land. Another place touched by the hollow's memory. That night, he wrote in his journal, "The jungle isn't a place. It's a presence. It sends roots into forgotten corners, tests hearts, devours regret. But sometimes it asks for help, and sometimes it leaves its tools behind. If I am that tool, then so be it." Cole rode through 3 more towns before he met the man who spoke in riddles. Each stop, the same questions followed him. Whispers in taverns, eyes on his back, rumors traveling faster than hooves. People said he was the one who burned the ghost town, the stranger with jungle fire in his chest, the man who spoke to places that no longer existed. He said nothing in return. But every town seemed off. Crows that watched too long, shadows that moved against the wind, old wells with stones grown slick with moss even in drought, and songs, always songs, humming through trees, forgotten barns or the breeze itself. By the 5th night, he reached a crossroad beneath a dead oak. There stood a man, tall, narrow-shouldered, dressed in faded green. His boots were stitched from hide Cole didn't recognize. His eyes were 2 shades too bright. Cole slowed Shadow. "You lost?" "Not anymore." His voice sounded like old parchment being folded. "I was looking for you, Cole." Cole stiffened. "You know my name?" "Names cling to those who've been marked." Cole's hand hovered near his revolver. "You from the hollow?" "No," the man said. I'm from the spaces between, where the hollow's roots spread, where memory forgets itself. I am a keeper. Cole's grip tightened. Of what? Warnings. Cole slid off his horse, boots thudding against the dry road. Then warn me. The keeper's face darkened. You carry a gift meant for healing, but gifts travel both ways. The Emberleaf doesn't just give life, it remembers it. Every time you use it, the jungle awakes a little more here. Cole's jaw clenched. I used it once to save my mother. And then again, at the well. And you'll use it again, won't you? Every time a curse rises, every time the world forgets how to breathe, you'll offer it. Because it works. Yes, the keeper whispered. And that is the danger. The wind died. Even the insects went silent. The keeper took something from his coat. A small wooden box carved in patterns too complex for the eye to follow. He handed it to Cole. What's this? Cole asked. A safeguard. Inside is an echo of the hollow, not power, memory. If the Emberleaf ever tries to root itself through you, this will draw the infection into it. Infection? The keeper's expression became grave. The jungle has no will, but it has weight, and that weight bends things. You are not immune. Cole held the box. It pulsed cold. Why are you helping me? The keeper gave a sad smile. Because the last one who carried the flame before you didn't listen, and when the jungle came for him, there was nothing left to bury. Cole tucked the box into his coat. If this jungle ever spreads beyond the veil, I'll burn the roots myself. The keeper nodded once. You may have to. He stepped backward into the dark and was gone. No footsteps, no trail. Just a single green leaf fluttering to the ground. Cole picked it up. It turned to ash in his hand. He rode through the rest of the night. Sleep could wait. His mind was heavy with new truths, and for the first time he wondered, not just what the jungle had taken from him, but what it had put in. By the time Cole reached the edge of Drywater Ridge, the wind had picked up again. It didn't whistle or howl. It spoke. Quiet, layered voices in a language he didn't know, and yet somehow understood. He dismounted slowly, scanning the empty plain. There, nestled between crumbling hills and bone-dry brush, stood a church. Wooden, sun-bleached. Its steeple bent slightly, like it had bowed to something long ago. The door hung open, swaying gently. A single rope from the bell tower dragged in the dust, like a snake's tail. Shadow snorted uneasily behind him. Cole whispered, "You feel it too." He approached on foot, revolver holstered, hand resting near the box the keeper had given him. The closer he got, the louder the whispers became. They weren't coming from the church itself. They were coming from beneath it. Inside, pews sat in neat rows, untouched by time. Candles lined the walls, unlit but freshly trimmed. And at the pulpit stood a figure in a long black coat, motionless, head bowed, hands folded in prayer. Cole stopped in the doorway. "You waitin' on someone?" The figure didn't move. Cole stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind him. Wind howled through the cracks in the boards, and the floor beneath his boots breathed, a deep, slow swell like the church had lungs. The figure turned. Not a man. Not exactly. Its face was featureless, just wood and bark shaped into the vague form of a skull. Its eyes were hollow sockets,
and its hands, when unfolded, were long and jointed like spider legs. It spoke without a mouth. "You carry flame where there should be rot." Cole didn't flinch. "You're one of them." Not one, all. The thing pointed to the altar. Carved into it were names, hundreds, thousands, stacked layer over layer, burned into the wood. "Who are they?" Cole asked. "Those who prayed here, who whispered too long." The church groaned. The hollow does not only live in vines and roots, it grows in silence, in guilt, in secrets buried deep. The names on the altar began to glow red. One stood out. Sam Whitlock. Cole's breath caught. "My brother." The creature nodded. "He wandered close, long before you. The jungle reached for him. He heard the murmurs." Cole stepped forward. What did it do to him? It remembered him. He slammed his fist on the altar. "Speak straight." The creature's head tilted. "You carry the Emberleaf, but you are not the only one marked by memory. Some are remembered against their will." Cole stared at the name again. He remembered Sam's fall, the scream, the silence, the guilt that followed. What if it hadn't been the fall that took him? What if something else had reached first? He turned to the creature. "Where is he?" "Below, but he is not as you remember." The floorboards creaked. A trapdoor opened behind the pulpit. Darkness yawned below. The air grew thick, moist, and warm like breath on his neck. He drew his revolver and descended. Beneath the church was no basement. It was a root cave, twisting tendrils, forming walls, stairs, and chambers. The glow of fungus lit the path in faint green. He followed the spiral downward until he reached a chamber with a single figure sitting cross-legged at its center. A young man, dark hair, strong shoulders, eyes closed.
When he opened them, they were gold. "Cole," he said. Cole froze. "Sam?" His brother smiled. Not kindly, but waiting a long time, brother. Cole stepped forward. "You're alive." "No," Sam said. "I'm remembered. The hollow took me when I fell. It didn't kill me. It kept me. Wove me into its roots." His voice softened, and it showed me everything. Cole knelt. "I thought I lost you." "You did," Sam said, "but I never left. I've been in every shadow, every whisper, every breath you took after that day." Cole's throat tightened. "Then come back, we can—" "No," Sam said firmly. "You must burn me." Cole blinked. "What?" Sam held out his hand. The gold eyes dimmed. "I'm an anchor. Every step you take awakens more of the hollow through me. Every memory you carry bleeds back into the world. If I stay, it spreads." Cole's heart pounded. He reached into his coat, pulled out the keeper's box. Sam nodded. "Now." Tears welled in Cole's eyes. "I don't want to lose you again." "You already did. But this time, you can make it count." Cole opened the box. Light burst from it, cold, blue-white. It pulled at the walls, the roots, the memories. The chamber howled. Sam smiled one last time. "Thank you." And then he was gone. The roots shriveled. The light faded. The hollow's breath grew faint. Cole stood alone. Again. But this time, he had let go. He climbed back up to the church. It was empty. The pulpit broken, the names gone. Only silence remained. Real silence. He stepped outside. The wind no longer whispered. It only blew. The next message came with smoke. Cole had been riding west along the old mining roads when the sky darkened with crows. Not dozens, hundreds.
a river of black wings slicing through the sky, all flowing toward a distant peak. At first he thought it was coincidence. Then he smelled it. Ash. He crested a ridge, and there, miles away, stood Mount Breton, a craggy summit long thought dormant. But from its side now spilled smoke, thick and curling, not from a volcano, but from burning trees. A fire, but not a natural one. Flames rose without consuming. They danced in shapes, circular, spiraling, reaching upward like grasping hands. He saw people too, figures in robes, moving in and out of the fire, unburned. A ritual. Cole's jaw tightened. The hollow was trying something new. He pressed his heels to Shadow's flanks. Time to stop it. By nightfall, he reached the lower slopes. The air reeked of sap and scorched moss. Charred trees stood like sentinels, but no heat came from the flames licking their trunks. They shimmered with green light, bending inward, like a gate. Cole dismounted, whispered to Shadow, "Stay low. If I'm not back by morning." He didn't finish the sentence. The gate flared as he stepped through. And suddenly he was somewhere else. Not inside the mountain, but beneath it. The air shifted from smoke to mist. A massive cavern opened before him, illuminated by pulsing crystals along the walls. In the center stood an altar of root and stone. Surrounding it, 8 figures in emerald robes. At the altar's base knelt a woman, arms bound behind her, lips sewn shut. Cole didn't hesitate. He fired once, into the air. The 8 figures turned in unison. From beneath their hoods came a voice not from mouths, but from within the cavern itself. "You carry what should not be outside." Cole drew the keeper's box and held it high. "I've burned roots deeper than this." The robed figures took a step forward. Each one split at the center, bodies unfolding like petals, revealing insect-like limbs and bark-skinned cores. They weren't human. They had never been. "The Emberleaf is a breach. We seek to widen it." Cole dropped into a crouch and fired twice, striking the nearest creature in the chest. It didn't fall, but it staggered. The woman on the altar looked at him with wild, tear-filled eyes. He ran to her, slashed the vines binding her wrists. She collapsed into his arms. "Run," he whispered. She shook her head and rasped, "Too late. They've rooted into the stone." He looked up. The cavern ceiling began to crack.
From it hung thick roots pulsing red, and from those roots dropped spores, seeds that squirmed when they touched ground. One latched onto the hem of his coat. He ripped it off and crushed it beneath his boot, but more kept falling. Cole opened the keeper's box. The creatures hissed and fell back, arms raised. Cole tossed the box onto the altar. It cracked open fully. A blast of cold memory light surged outward, white and gold, laced with voices, tears, promises made and broken. The roots screamed, the cavern shook, stone split, fire rushed inward. Cole grabbed the woman and ran. Behind him the altar cracked in half, and the flame turned from green to blue. It consumed now, hungrily. Real fire, cleansing. By the time they emerged back into the trees, the mountain was rumbling like thunder. The hollow's pocket had been burned out again. They camped under the stars. The woman's name was Elira, a healer taken from her village 2 weeks prior. The robed ones had called her a vessel. Something about her blood allowed them to anchor new roots through her. She shivered even near the fire. "You stopped them," she said. "For now," Cole answered. "You're marked, aren't you?" He didn't respond. She touched his shoulder. "They said your name, said you were their bridge." Cole turned toward the flame, the petal of the emberleaf still glowing softly beneath his shirt. "I'm no bridge." "Then what are you?" He thought of Kira, of Sam, of the ghosts, the burning town, the voices beneath churches, the keeper. He looked toward the stars. "I'm the fire that closes the gate."
And somewhere deep in the world, the hollow listened and shifted again. The road home was never meant to be traveled twice. Cole had burned roots across 4 counties, silenced whispers in wells, freed towns from memory's grip, and still the hollow breathed in his bones. He had carried the Emberleaf like a torch against the dark, but even the flame felt heavy. He had not won. He had only delayed the inevitable. And deep inside, he knew what he had to do. Go back. Back into the jungle. Back to where it all began. Back to where Kira waited, or where her memory held the last answer. He rode for 3 days and 3 nights, through deadwood plains and rain-slicked cliffs. Shadow never hesitated, as if she too understood the need. On the 4th dawn, the trees rose again, tall and thick, draped in veils of mist. The hollow had returned, or perhaps it had never left. Cole dismounted and stepped into the green. The forest accepted him this time. No testing roots, no illusions. Not yet. It remembered him. He walked the old paths. The clearing where the Tree of Murmurs once stood was now a meadow of black flowers. The chasm where he fought the razor claws was filled with silver water, smooth as glass. Everything had changed, and yet nothing had. He followed the old trail to the stone circle where he had met the Warden of Return. The circle was gone. In its place stood a gate. Vines wrapped around obsidian pillars, pulsing softly. The air trembled with breathless tension. He stepped through, and the hollow swallowed him whole. Beyond the gate was not the jungle he knew. It was deeper, older. The trees were impossibly tall, their canopies lost in darkness. The ground glowed faintly with blue moss. Shapes moved between trunks, neither hostile nor friendly, just watching. He felt no fear, only purpose. The emberleaf pebble burned hotter now, pressing against his chest like a brand. It was guiding him. At the heart of the hollow stood a tree, but not like any before. It was made of bone and bark, roots spiraling out like fingers. At its base, a figure sat cross-legged, draped in vines. Kira. Cole stepped forward. "Kira," he breathed. She opened her eyes. They were green and gold, swirling with memory. "You came back," she said. "I had to." She looked at him, softly, sadly. "The hollow is unbalanced. It reaches farther every day. I've stopped parts of it." She shook her head. "You've delayed it. But there's a core beneath everything, a place where the first memory was buried, the first seed. It's waking." Cole dropped to one knee. "Tell me how to stop it." Kira reached forward, her fingers brushing his. "You must plant the emberleaf where it was first plucked, at the heart root. It will burn clean the memory. But," she paused, "but it will cost you." "What?" "You." Cole didn't flinch. "All of me?" She nodded. "Your name, your face, your story. You will become memory, not man. The hollow will hold you, and no one will remember why they're free." Cole stared at her, the choice weighing like lead. "And you? I'll be with you, but not as I was." He reached for the petal. It glowed brighter than ever before. "I carried it for a reason." She smiled through tears. "Then carry it one last time." They descended into the roots. Down, down, past chambers of crystal and bone, past rivers of sap and caverns of echo, until they reached the heart root, a pulsing mass at the center of all things. Here, memory lived. Here, the hollow was born. Cole stepped forward. The petal in his hand burned like a star. He pressed it into the heart, and the hollow screamed, not in pain, but in remembrance. Light erupted, Roots caught fire. Whispers turned to song, and then to silence. Everything burned. Then, nothing. When the forest cleared weeks later, there was no sign of the heartroot, no memory of the hollow's grip. Towns forgotten were found again. Ghosts no longer wandered. The jungle receded into myth. And no one remembered the man who made it happen. No one except a lone horse who waited at the edge of the wood beneath a tree that bloomed red and gold. Seasons passed. The hollow was gone, not just silenced, erased. The vines that once reached into wells and mines had vanished. Forgotten trails reappeared. Towns that had vanished in whispers returned to maps. Children slept without hearing songs in their dreams. The world was healing, but no one remembered why. Not the sheriffs in Drywater Ridge, not the elders of Dustfell, not even Martha, who smiled each morning, her son's name just beyond reach. She sometimes stood on the porch, hand over her heart, feeling something warm, something missing. But the memory never came. It wasn't meant to. Some prices are paid in silence. At the edge of the reclaimed forest, near a stream where nothing had grown in decades, a flower bloomed. Alone. Red and gold. Petals like tongues of flame, glowing faintly in the moonlight. No one knew its name, but travelers often paused when they passed it. Some felt braver after walking by. Some shed tears without knowing why. And some simply placed a hand on their chest as if remembering something or someone. Above the flower, a great tree stood, taller than the rest, roots wide and deep. Beneath its shade stood a statue, not carved by man, nor shaped by time, just formed. It was of a rider, face bowed, a revolver to one side, and a journal in his hand. His other hand rested on his chest, over where something once burned. A plaque beneath it read, "To the Forgotten One, who walked into the hollow and returned as memory." No name, no date, no explanation. Just a presence, still, eternal. And behind the tree, unseen by most, two shadows lingered, one tall, wearing the shape of a cowboy, the other slender and silent, with eyes like leaves and a smile like mist. They watched, not to return, but to remember.